Welcome to the Anthony Wynkoop Show. This is the first episode. First thing we need to do, guys, is take some responsibility and stop blaming the for everything. It'll be so awkward if it's actually not the this, the that. I think you just need to stop blaming everyone else for your mistakes. No more blaming the yeah. If you guys have any questions, all my friends back home, I'm sure we haven't had time to catch up. I've been living in Austin, and it'd be really cool if instead of us sending each other Instagram reels, that we message each other questions, and I could just rant about this stuff in a studio in Austin. And I actually feel very safe here. I feel like in public settings, going out and doing stand-up comedy has been kind of uneasy because every other night in Austin, there's a shooting downtown. And I know stand-up comedians are pretty resilient. And there's a lot of homeless people in Austin as well. So I was thinking about starting an outreach program where we pair up stand-up comics in Austin with homeless people on 6th Street, and the homeless people will train the Austin comics how to survive and prepare for what's coming in their career. The Hunger Games. The plot of the Hunger Games is kind of exciting because you can see a lot of analogs to what's going on today. Essentially, you have a bunch of really rich people sending money, kind of like OnlyFans, to a bunch of kids fighting each other in the middle of a forest. And that kind of reminds me of the Ukraine war. If you guys didn't know this, you can actually send money to teenagers in Ukraine to help them fight Russians. Or you can send money to Russians to help them fight Ukrainians. Or you can send money to Colombians to help them fight Venezuelans, but they're still in Ukraine. So if you think about what you're going to do with $1,500. For a lot of us, a $1,500 amount of money in our bank account would set us ahead like maybe a couple months. For some of you, 6 months, which is impressive. But an FPV drone, a first-person drone, is about $1,500. For $1,500, you could change the life of a Ukrainian child. You could help Sergey survive another 3 days in his trench for just $1,500. Don't buy more Ethereum, okay? You do not need more cryptocurrency. You need to buy an FPV drone for a Ukrainian child. Okay, so back to the Hunger Games. So in the Hunger Games, you have a boy and a girl from different states all coming together to slaughter each other, and everybody watches on television. And then you have all the richest people donating money to help certain people succeed. So it's a lot of logistics based on attention. Something that entertains me is the idea of flipping that script. I don't know if you guys still think that voting is super useful or that we're getting a bunch out of it, but I think a new political process should be in the pipeline for the United States. Hear me out. So let's take politicians, people that want to be in charge. Let's put them somewhere, anywhere. I don't know. We could change it every election year. and let's have them fight to the death. And then we can, instead of spending money on campaigns and rallies, let's just all go to the bar, get our phones out, and let's just send money to the person that we want to win. So instead of Donald Trump running for a third term, maybe we just have, let's pair up Donald Trump and Jared Kushner and put them up against AOC and Mom Donnie in like an abandoned school in Detroit. There's plenty of them. And then we'll fill up their accounts and send them stuff. We'll have a little Ukrainian kid fly a drone to drop off, pizza, ammunition, bandages, and then whoever wins will be our president and vice president. Next topic. I think vigilantes have gone out of style, and we need to bring them back. Vigilantes are a severely underrated form of political participation. I was watching Daredevil, excellent show on Netflix. The best fight scenes. Fight scenes where people actually get tired and these guys are slugging each other. It's amazing. There's a scene in the newest season of The Punisher where, Daredevil. So Matthew Murdock, the Daredevil, he is surrounded in his apartment by criminals who are coming to kill him. They're like crooked cops. So the Punisher gets called by the Daredevil's girlfriend to protect him. So the Punisher's waiting inside Daredevil's apartment, and he's like, hey, I'm here to help you. And Daredevil, Matthew Murdock, he's like, man, I don't really like how you help me because you're going to kill all these people. Matthew Murdock is a lawyer. He's Catholic. So he has some moral quandaries with killing people. The Punisher is an ex-Marine whose family was murdered by criminals. So his whole thing is just killing criminals. And so these guys are kind of at an impasse in this situation where a bunch of people are waiting outside to come murder them. So Matthew Murdock says, that's not the kind of help I want. And the Punisher says, well, this is the kind of help you get, whether you like it or not. And then it's an awesome fight scene that ensues where Matthew Murdock is punching guys and the Punisher is executing guys, and it's a great fight scene. I think we could use a little bit more of that in the American political system. I think it's good to have debate. I think it's good to have disagreement, and it's good to settle those disagreements with a little bit of input from all sides. Now, I'm not insisting upon political violence. That'd be crazy. I would never, ever condone that somebody like Luigi Mangione should not only be freed, but should be given a book deal. Maybe we make a movie about him and let him be a star. Maybe he inspires a whole movement of young bisexual Italian men that just go out and execute super wealthy, corrupt people. That'd be crazy. But there's enough men in America that spend money on pistols and guns and shit like that, where it'd be probably pretty easy to change things, or at least make things kind of more fun. Okay, we're going to talk about the nativity. It's not Christmas time yet, but it's something that has been on my mind. So we have the three wise men. Okay, you have Jesus being born outside of Bethlehem. And these three guys show up out of nowhere with the equivalent of nearly probably $200,000. They show up with gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Mary's never seen these men before, or at least she says. And I'm sure Joseph was wondering who these guys were because he didn't know they were coming. And these guys give Jesus $250,000 for no reason. But after a little bit of research, you see that the 3 wise men were from Persia. Why did a bunch of non-Israeli people, non-Judeo people, they're not from Judea, they're not from the area, they're not even from the Roman Empire. They came from way far away, and they decided to give Jesus a dowry so that he can do what? Well, first they go to King Herod, and they're like, yo, we heard there was a new king in town, because they're following a star or whatever. They give Herod, a little pep talk, and they're like, we're looking for the new king of the Jews. And Herod's like, I don't know who you're talking about. That's not me. And so Herod does this thing where he goes and sends soldiers to kill all the babies in Bethlehem because he doesn't want Jesus to actually become the king of the Jews. The wise men, they kind of cut onto this, so they leave the village and they go out and they follow the North Star out into the middle of the sticks where they find this manger, and lo and behold, there's a peasant and his family hanging out, and they give this stuff to the baby and they say, hey, we got to go, and they leave. Apparently, they still have all of these gifts in somewhere in Greece. But something a lot of people don't do is they don't look at the Bible as a geopolitical. I read the Bible like a Tom Clancy novel. Okay. To me, Jesus could have been a Manchurian candidate who was paid to unravel the Roman Empire. And the 3 wise men are the perfect vehicle for that. More on that later. Whoever designed the human body was doing a pretty good job, especially for men. It was a good idea to put the heart, the stomach, the kidneys, the lungs in between the ball sack and the brainstem, because those things, if they were attached, would make life nearly impossible. If I'm hungry, I'm more likely to go get something to eat. So I need my stomach in between my nutsack and my brain so that I don't do only things that my ball sack wants me to do. But as you get older, you realize your ball sack doesn't necessarily drive the boat as much. You find that your stomach ends up leading the way a lot. Shout out to Let's Hibachi. All my hibachi chefs out there, what's up, guys? I know you guys are probably balls deep in a bachelorette party right now, or you're waking up at 1 p.m. and you have to be at prep in a little bit. You guys have broke the system. If you're a hibachi chef in Phoenix or Miami or you know who I'm talking to. I just want you guys to know that while so many people that have college degrees are getting replaced by artificial intelligence, you are setting yourself up to be extremely, extremely successful. I'll put it like this. A ton of middle management jobs, mostly people that deal with spreadsheets, are getting replaced by computers because those jobs were fake in the first place. The only thing that cannot be replaced while we usher in the age of artificial intelligence is live entertainment. If you can sing, if you can dance, if you can be a clown, if you can cook in front of people, you'll probably never be replaced by artificial intelligence. Because people want to see versions of themselves doing things. Nobody wants to watch a robot tell a joke. Now, robots might want to watch robots tell a joke, but we have probably 100 or so years until that takes place. So let's talk about the pandemic and why the hibachi business blew up during the pandemic. So people can't go to restaurants. Restaurants are closed. People have to stay at home, but people still have money and they still want to spend it. They want to celebrate their birthdays, their weddings. They want to have bachelorette parties, but they don't want to go to a restaurant. A lot of families have children or old people and friends, and they want to get them all together at the same time, and they don't necessarily want to cook, and they don't necessarily want to have someone who can't entertain come into their home and just stare at them. So the hibachi business, the backyard hibachi business kind of blows up because you have these otherwise maybe unemployable people in other parts of society come into your home, do a little song and dance, and cook some pretty good food. So hold on to your jobs. Don't do anything crazy. I'm talking to you. You know who I'm talking to. Okay, treat this with a little bit of reverence. Treat it with some reverence because you're making more money than a lot of people do out of college for the first 5 years. And you're pretty much working for yourself. You don't have to pay for marketing. You don't have to pay for equipment. You don't have to pay for food. Be grateful. I guess that's where I'm going with that. Okay, if you guys haven't bought a gun yet, I'm not saying you need to buy a gun right now. What I'm actually saying is you might be able to skip buying a gun because guns are going to be pretty much useless. The only people that have guns are people that plan on using them, but guns are going to be pretty much useless. Hear me out. Palantir. You guys all know who Palantir is. They are going to have drones and surveillance, and you're not going to be able to affect the world the way that you want to with a gun. Unless you want to go out and be the Punisher, then I support you. But if you're just going to be a normal person, the only reason you're going to have a gun isn't going to be to protect yourself from the government. You're probably just going to be protecting yourself from, I don't know, a hungry person. Which is unfortunate. I want to discuss one of my new personal heroes. Let me put you guys on to the burnt peanut. Now, a lot of my friends are unfamiliar with the burnt peanut, but everyone who's close to me, they know that the burnt peanut is one of my interpretations of the Messiah. So this guy from probably Houston, he plays video games, and he plays them as a peanut. He appears on screen as a peanut. You don't get to see his face. No one really knows who he is. But he might be the funniest person in American culture right now. And the reason I call him a messiah is because no matter what video game he's playing, he has hundreds of people that follow him in the game, telling him that they love him and that they will die for him. And then outside of the game on his stream, I think he gets close to between 40,000 and 100,000 viewers a night, which is more than Jesus. When Jesus was doing his thing, I think he had like maybe 2,000 people following him around a night. Okay numbers, Jesus, pretty mid-tier. But the Burnt Peanut now is putting up huge numbers. And that's why if you're working a mid-level management job, consider quitting and starting streaming. Maybe becoming a peanut. There's so many things you could do out there other than work for Palantir that maybe if you want to hold on to your soul, you could just be a peanut. And you could make millions of dollars a month being a peanut. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about an American Civil War, which I don't know. That sounds pretty unlikely. When you think about the first American Civil War, you had two sides, and they were meeting up in the middle of nowhere and just blasting each other. I think more soldiers died in that war than all the other subsequent American wars combined. The next American Civil War, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's not going to involve the United States military at all, even necessarily, because they'll be busy doing stuff overseas. The next American Civil War is going to consist of all the people in mid-level management jobs who can no longer afford their mortgage, who still owe money on their Toyota Sequoia, but have also maxed out their credit card buying $500 AR-15s. And they are probably going to go to war with extremists on the internet at a shopping mall. That's the most likely scenario. Maybe we'll see some of the CIA fighting some of the NSA and the FBI, but all this stuff is already kind of happening in the background. The Civil War ain't going to be a big thing that we all get to see. It's going to happen in kind of like small events. Think COVID, where you have some riots, you have people arguing across the street, and then eventually they get in little scuffles. We're just going to see that, but people are going to shoot each other. And it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think it'll be a great opportunity to maybe sell some merch. So if you're going to have a Civil War battle, you'll probably need to get a permit. You'll probably need to get some catering because nobody wants to watch a gunfight without catering. You'll probably need to get some merch. You'll have to get some merch involved. The Black Death was a European thing. You should start microdosing gluten. Some of you need more seed oils. I like to buy ammunition from Instacart. I'm 34 and I don't have a kid yet. Which, having a pregnancy scare at the age of 34 is awkward because you're not supposed to call it a pregnancy scare anymore. You're just supposed to call it having a kid. And I called one of my buddies from back home the other day, and he asked me, are you proposing anytime soon? Are you having a kid? And, he's married, very successful, has a beautiful son. So he's happy. Or at least that's what he's trying to convince me. Because he hasn't slept in a year. And I want to have a kid, but I think I want to have a kid, but I don't necessarily want to be married. I want a baby mama. And I think that's something that's severely underrated, and it's a uniquely American thing to have a baby mama. I think it's an advanced form of egalitarian existence. As long as you're actually sending her money, then what's the problem? I think having an absent parent can actually really build up the emotional resilience of a child. If you're there too much, they get soft. They might be spoiled. They might expect that everyone's going to care what they think as they get older. A good aside to that is I'm a first generation American. So my dad was an immigrant. My mom, not an immigrant. Which in the 1990s, for an Asian man to score a white woman and get her pregnant, big ups. That's a big come up. 1992, Asian men were not quite popular with white women. Now, I think Asian men are a bit of like a sought after commodity because we can cook, we can clean. Kind of a big deal, especially since women can't do that anymore. First generation Americans are only one generation removed from a much more difficult life. So when you're first generation American, you hear about all the bullshit that your parents had to go through in their other country, which makes me pretty patriotic because I'm told how awesome America is all the time from my first generation or from my immigrant family members. But once you get to second, third, fourth generation, well, each subsequent generation gets a little bit weirder and softer, I think. And so we need to keep bringing immigrants in and breeding with them so that we can keep our level of hardness up. I know what some of you are thinking. What kind of psychotic, social eugenics is this? But I really love rap music. And so in order to keep rap music hard, we need to keep trauma. We need to keep a cycle of trauma happening in the United States. And trailer park rap music is not it. Not a hip hop podcast, so I'm not going to go too far into that rabbit hole. I kind of wish you were in here, JJ. I'm gonna have to bring someone to just talk shit to, so I could. Yeah, a lot of the Austin comics moved here and lived in cars, which I'm too bougie for that. I'm far too materialistic to consider living in a car. I could do it if I had to, but I think I would probably start selling drugs. Like I would start selling hard drugs to not live in a car. I find that pretty honorable about a lot of the comics in Austin is that you can offer them a job and they will say, no, I am pursuing comedy. I am living and breathing and dying on this hill and nothing can stop me. It doesn't matter what my credit score is. It doesn't matter if my parents don't know where I'm at. It doesn't matter if I'm single or what diseases I have. I am going to, no matter what, keep pursuing comedy. And that is one of the very admirable aspects of the Austin comedy scene is people will die on this hill for it. Hi, baby. Yeah, this is a podcast right now. Yeah, yeah. I love you. Yeah, that should about cover it. I'm good. I'm good. I'm satisfied. Yeah, good idea. Check out Wander with Olan. Putting out new music again. Big things coming. This has been a schizophrenic first episode of the Anthony Wynkoop show. A lot of the times when I do the note prepping, it kind of makes sense in my head. And when I'm by myself, I can rant for 2 hours. But now that I'm in a podcast studio, it feels so uh, professional that I almost get nervous. But send me some questions. Give me some stuff to talk about. Thanks.